Hello and welcome to Straight Talk with ArunKumar. Today's topic is about the upcoming U.S. elections 2020, and my guest in my show tonight is Jim Baldini. James is a Republican congressional primary candidate for District 5 in the state of New Jersey. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Hello, Aaron. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Good. How's the day so far?
It's good. Classes were great, and I came down here to do this interview.
So, should I say, how's the campaign so far?
Campaign's it's solid. We're reaching out to different groups and different clubs, and I'm hoping I have my kickoff next Tuesday down at the Hampton Diner. Great event. I'm hoping to get as many people there as I can. We want to make a solid impression, and we also want to get the message out, and that'll be on Facebook too as well.
So tell our viewers, who's James Baldini?
James Baldini is a teacher. First off, I'm a school teacher. I teach middle school. I feel in many ways that by going to Congress, I'd be doing a little bit of the same thing by teaching middle school. But I certainly have seen a lot of behaviors down there that remind me of my students. But I'm a guy who's committed to trying to help our district, to help the other districts out there win their campaigns, and because I feel like it's a giant thing. But my motivation for running is really my situation with my daughter. About 5 years ago, she came down with something called autoimmune encephalitis, and the disease attacks the brain, and it causes the brain to see and do things that it shouldn't. And she ended up in New York City Hospital. And New York City hospital system, I don't know if you're aware, but it's basically set up as a socialist system where you have the top people are running it are people from the city. And the city is meant to, it governs it, it sets it, it controls it. And when you get right down to it, they they pay the bills, they do all the things connected with it. My problem was they took my daughter's diagnosis of 18 months and they changed it to psychiatric. It was a medical diagnosis, they changed it to psychiatric, and they kept her for 75 days. Now, the thing is, they did it for money. On a Friday, they said they were keeping her for 6 months. On a Saturday, the insurance canceled. And on a Monday, they called us, that next Monday, they called us to come pick her up. There's a complete financial reason and for them to have done that. And that's the kind of thing I want to fight. I'm not interested, I'm interested in all the fight. I'm interested in pushing back against the Democrats. I feel what they're doing to our president is wrong. I feel, his agenda is saving our country from the abyss it was slipping into. I mean, as a history guy, I've seen this happen. I can look back in history and see where countries have fallen. Great countries have fallen to the wayside. And there's no other country better than ours. And one of the things that will help it only slip further is socialism. And seeing what they did to my daughter, I can't imagine that medical kidnapping they did to her, that them doing it to other kids just for financial gain for those who have private insurance, because no socialist system is going to survive. It's not going to let our country survive. Look at Venezuela, look at the others. So my drive is to push back against that, but I'm also pushing back against the hard left. The hard left has been ruining our country. You can see it in California, and you can see it here in New Jersey. New Jersey's doing everything it can. The hard left Democratic leadership is doing everything it can to copy what they've done in California to the worse. And it's going to just continue unless we get somebody to stand up to it. And Trump's done that nationally. He has stood up to them on a national level. What we need here is somebody in New Jersey to stand up to them. We have a lot of people who are qualified, but the person who does it has to have a backbone of steel. They have to be willing to take the hits and keep on moving. They got to be willing to take the hits and keep on pushing back against them.
Talking about hard left in the state of New Jersey, they've been introducing driving licenses and stuff like that
for the illegal immigrants. Yeah,
immigrants.
I mean, it's insane. We're less than 20 years out of what happened on 9/11, and they're looking to reverse the entire model that we put in place to protect us from something like
introducing
that.
LGBT curriculum into middle school.
It's a social experiment. It's a social experiment. I mean, one of the things that I have as a problem for schools is New Jersey is ranked number 1 in the 50 states, but I think are now 27th in the entire world. And part of that problem is what we do is we create mass production for our classrooms instead of the mastery that we should be doing. Our kids aren't becoming masters of their subject. What they're doing is they have to complete this one and then go on to the next one, just like you do in a car line, where you have to have the line move down and you just feed them more facts and feed them more information. That's what we're doing in our educational system, and it's not making it any better. This is why we've slipped behind. It's not money. We've got more money than many of those countries out there, but we're not meeting the American potential. And as American potential, we have, there's an independent spirit in the American. We can't copy Japan and think we're going to get the same stuff, because Japan and the Asian countries don't have the same kind of culture that America does.
You talk about bringing down socialism. It's funny because if you look at the Democratic primaries and the caucuses, what's going on,
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, Mr. Sanders is being encouraged throughout. So what's your
take
take on that?
Some of these debates, they seem like they're trying to outdo each other in destroying our country. That's what it comes down to. The things that they're doing and saying, they want to.
But there's a lot of crowd supporting him, though. There's about 26% in Iowa, 26 in.
There's over $1 billion that our students and our kids are owing to the financial, or to the government, for their loans, their student loans. Over $1 billion. That's ridiculous. And the reason why is because these schools, these colleges, are bailing on them. I'll tell you what. I heard this on Tucker, that we should get the schools, the colleges, to be co-signers of these loans that these kids are taking, because then they have an investment in making sure these students actually succeed, because now they don't care.
Responsibility.
Yeah, there's no responsibility from the institution. They take them in, and when they fail because of whatever reason, they walk away. And there's a lot of good colleges out there that want to help their kids, but the individuals want to help them, but the administration says, oh, well, we got paid, so who cares?
Since you're a teacher in history, let me ask you this question: why do all socialists promise free stuff?
No, because that's, I mean, if you look out through
history. Do people believe it, or is that
Of course they do.
Is that true?
Of course, because we believe the lies because we want to believe the lies. When you get right down to it, another thing I heard somebody say, that reason why they look up to Bernie is because so many of them have broken families. And I don't know if that's true or not, but there's an easy way for us to look at him as a father figure, and maybe that's what they're doing. But I will tell you that it's lies. No matter what they tell you, they can tell you they promised the moon. We're $23 trillion in debt, and we have to get that under control. We can't make promises to these kids, because in the state of New Jersey, right now, each of us taxpayers have to pay $65,000. If all our unfunded mandates, or everything, if that was all to come due today, we'd have to pop out $65,000 each. There's no way we can handle that. That's something that's a dollar figure that's unattainable for any citizen. And because of this, New Jersey's trying to copy California. It's only going to get worse with more Democrats in office in New Jersey on the state level. And I know I'm talking about the state, and I'm running for the federal government. But the reality is,
but the reports say that all these freebies are attracting a lot of young crowd.
Well, yeah, of course they're going to attract a young crowd, but it's lies. I mean, what we need to do is we need to give them an alternative that's steeped in reality. When you look at these numbers coming in, these people are looking to say, "Hey, come to us, we'll give you free." Last time I checked, there's no money tree sticking out in the back of my yard, and it seems like Bernie thinks there is. Elizabeth Warren seems to think there is. It's fake. They can't afford what they're doing. They're putting.
Maybe you guys are looking at different trees.
I don't think so. If there's a money tree, I want one.
Looking at a different forest, maybe.
Maybe they're on a different planet. Maybe they're in a different universe. Socialism has never worked in this world. It never will. And they have to, if they're going to continue it, it's just going to be an easier victory for our president.
So coming back to your district, right? District 5, the state of New Jersey, has the counties of Warren, Sussex, Passaic, and Bergen counties. So why District 5? Why did you pick 5th District?
Well, I grew up in the 5th District. I grew up in Newton.
Are you from there?
We moved there when I was 7. So yeah, I guess you could say I'm from there. I'm almost 50 now, so 43 years kind of counts for being from there.
Yeah, that domicile is acceptable.
Yeah. I've lived there. I've raised my kids there. Both my parents are buried there. I have roots in that district. To me, this is more of me helping my community out. And listen, I've had so many kids in my school leave and go to North Carolina or South Carolina, someplace else where they have better opportunities for jobs, because New Jersey's getting dragged down. And I know I'm talking about state again, but as a federal guy, you can also influence state legislatures. You can influence them by helping those candidates that are going to do the conservative right thing and bring down our taxes. and help our our state and local taxes to lower them. You can do that if you're a federal guy, because you can start pushing out in other districts to get the legislature that's Republican and conservative. You get the people in there. You get Murphy out. First of all, you got to get Murphy out, but from there downward, you can make it a conservative base. Our state needs a conservative
That's wishful
base.
thinking. Both legislatures.
No, it's not wishful thinking. It's just hard work. There's only hard work. The more hard work you put into your job, the more success you'll see from it. That's what I was taught when I was raised. That's what I've seen as I grow older, and that's what I'm convinced that if we keep at it, we will turn the state around. Politics is cyclical. People will get tired. They're already getting tired of Murphy. You can see it in the resurgence. You can see it in the Trump numbers at his rally down in South Jersey. Those numbers were phenomenal.
Wildwood.
Yeah, I mean those numbers were phenomenal for the state of New Jersey. It's not a temporary thing. This is a real sea change that we're seeing.
So the Republican, should say, congressional primary in District 5 reminds me of Democratic presidential primary.
Yeah, there's a lot of
it's overcrowded. So
yes.
What's the deal with this?
I think that there's a lot of passionate people who are fed up with Congressman Gottheimer. He said 2 terms ago that he was a moderate. He prattles on about his problem solver caucus. He prattles on about a whole bunch of things that he's saying he's being a moderate. But when you vote to impeach our president, when you vote with Nancy, when majority of your votes are in line with Nancy Pelosi, you're not a moderate. You're a leftist. You're a hard leftist. He voted right along the lines with AOC. He voted right along the lines with Tlaib. He voted right along the lines with all of them. And yet, he sits there and claims that he's a moderate. He's not. He's a far left guy, and you can see it in his votes.
How come people in your district are so fed up with Gottheimer that they're not so much fed up with Frank Pallone? He's been there only 2 terms, right? Josh has been only 2 terms, correct?
Josh has been there for 2 terms. Yeah.
2 terms, but Frank Pallone has been like 11 terms.
I
see more people in your district running against him than Pallone's district.
Well, you got to look at the entire district. The makeup of the district goes from the Hudson River to the Delaware River. And then it swings down through Warren County. It's a very, Pallone's district is not the same as the entire 5th district. It's a right-leaning district. There's a lot of conservative voices in the district, and we have a lot of the entire county that I'm from is a conservative county. We have 5 Republican freeholders. Bergen County has 5 Democrat freeholders. Warren County has 3 Republican freeholders. So I mean, you look at it, it's we have a solid conservative half of the district, and even in parts of Bergen County are really solid conservative. So I think that the difference, the makeup of it is, I mean, there's 1 million people in Bergen County, almost 1 million people. So that's something to consider. It's a lot of different voices. Yeah,
racially speaking, talking about population, racially speaking too, it's a pretty white district. It's about 80% white population, right?
Yeah, religiously though, I think there's a solid breakdown in different religions, and New Jersey is
no, not religious, racially speaking.
Yeah, racially, and also when you look at racially though, you got to look at the entire picture. There's a whole bunch of different groups of people, but to me, I say this to everybody. I say, Italian American, Jewish American, or I'm sorry, any type of American. It's not the first word you're looking at. I'm always looking at the second word. We're all Americans, and when you look at 9/11, we all came together, and we were all proud Americans. And then when we don't have an outside force attacking us, we all start turning on each other, and that's part of what's going on in our society now. We're not looking at the second word. We're always looking at the first word, or how we identify it. We're Republicans or Democrats. We need to be Americans, and we need to come together.
Well, Jim, if that's true, if coming togetherness is true, why do minorities always lean towards Democrats?
I think because of the same reason that the young people are leaning towards socialism, because they're being lied to. Listen, the socialist experiments and the leftist experiments are all happening in our big cities. There's no doubt in my mind. I've said it before. I'll say it again. The Democratic policies are turning our cities into stuff that they shouldn't be. Our minorities are invariably facing the problems of living in these areas where there's high crime. There's a lot more danger for them, and then you have a governor who doesn't even allow them to defend themselves, who makes them jump through extra hoops in order to get a firearm. Because I'm a big Second Amendment guy, and I don't come to that because I'm a Republican. I come for that because that's the way I was raised.
Oh, that's what I thought.
The Second Amendment is one that supports the rest, and if you can't have the Second Amendment, you can't have the others. But ultimately, the Second Amendment was in there to protect yourself, and the Supreme Court found that. But our governor seems to have missed that, and so is our Democratic legislator, and so is our Attorney General. And what gets me is this is like, I feel like I look at it as a history guy, and in Jim Crow, I feel like Jim Crow has come to New Jersey. I feel like Jim Crow is because Jim Crow was meant to keep black people, minorities, in check. It was meant to stop them from standing up for themselves and to allow them to be lynched. Now, what's going on in New York City? These people are being, they can't defend themselves. They have to hope that the police are coming in there, and then the left is making us demonize the police. They're looking at them and they're demonizing the police, and so that the only group of people who can defend these Americans in the city is themselves, and they won't let them defend themselves because they're taking away their guns. They're making sure that my brother's a public defender down in South Philadelphia, or outside of Philadelphia, and he tells me all these stories about how these people are trying to defend themselves, and they have no way to they're criticized, they're attacked for owning a gun.
I'm going to go back to your earlier statement. You mentioned about urban population, right? But the states with the biggest urban population, like California and New York, they are blue states. And
Yes.
if you look at the electoral votes, they are hurting your party the most.
Because you get these machines, these democratic machines in there, and the machines are the ones that make things happen. The establishment. I mean, you don't have to talk about.
Why don't you get your own machines?
Well, because the idea of being a conservative or being a Republican is I don't have to tell you how to think. I let you think the way you want to. When you look into these cities, you see them turning into this cesspool. And there's a lot of good things about the cities. I love the cities, but the problem is the governance of them turn them into places where there is crime. There's a lot of good things that happen to them. I don't want to demonize cities because I can see a lot of good coming from it, but I see what I see negative coming out of it is these democratic ideas, which are sapping the life force out of them. These cities used to be centers of commerce. They used to be centers of industry. They used to be centers of places where people would see an advancement in their lives. And what they're seeing now is the complete opposite. We're seeing them slip further in, and the only thing right now that can save them, or one of the things that can save them, is the American First agenda that the president is pushing. Our president is pushing that, and the more we get the stand up to the other countries and we get our manufacturing jobs back, I'm hoping that they'll come back to that, come back to the cities, because the cities have great industrial connections with the rail network and the ports. We should see these flourishing, but instead, now they're starting to flourish because of the president. But under Democratic policies, they're not going to.
So you think the job growth and manufacturing in America and things like that, they're going to help people sitting on the fence to?
I think I think invariably they're going to have to step back and look and see that the economy that the president has created is the best economy in the last 50 years. You can see a definitive mark between before his policies and after. Remember, President Obama said, magic wand. What's Trump's magic wand? Well, he must have used it, right? I mean, he has in fact turned the economy around, brought manufacturing jobs back to our country, stood up to China, lowest minority unemployment in 50 years ever, and lowest women's unemployment ever, lowest veterans unemployment. I mean, I could go down the list. You could too. I mean, it's out there. It's public knowledge. They got to step back.
You mentioned that as part of his State of Union speech.
And this is all how you defeat this idea of socialism. Listen, I was raised. My father, who worked for the Army for 25 years, he helped develop a bunch of weapon systems that are in use today. He taught us, all my family, we got to fight socialism. I grew up in the 80s and the 70s when this collectivism, the statism, was so powerful in the Soviet Union, which was communist. But I would say this: I was raised to fight it once. I and this is what I'm doing now. I'm just continuing my father's fight and my grandfather's fight against all that. This is what we're doing. This is what we need to do. We need to continue this fight, and now we got to fight it here at home.
Coming back to District 5, there's what, 9 people?
I think it's. I think a couple of them have dropped out. I know right now I'm in. I know of 5 people who are solidly in. 2 of them I think have dropped out. I think Robert Auth has recently dropped out, and I also think Dana DeSalio, she also dropped out.
McCann is still in, right?
McCann is still in, yeah.
So what makes Jim special?
Well, a lot of what I am is I'm a teacher. I'm a teacher. I come from I'm an ordinary guy. Remember, the idea of our founding fathers was that we have citizen candidates. I'm a citizen candidate, and I come at this as a citizen candidate. I want to be there for no more than 4 terms. I said 3 terms is my limit unless we have a Democrat in the White House, and then I'm going back to teaching. That's what they were meant to do. That's what holding this job was meant to be. You weren't supposed to be a 30-year appointment. You weren't supposed to be there for life like many of our current politicians are.
But there's no legal congressional term limit, though.
No, and there needs to be.
I'm
all for it.
I think we tried to pass that bill in the past, but it
I'll sign on to it.
got rejected.
I'm willing to sign on it, and I'm willing to. I believe in role modeling too. I mean, this is a role model for other people out there to say, oh, he can do it. I can do it too, and I can also speak about it. I can also push it. The best way I was taught to make something happen is to be a role model for other people.
So you've been campaigning a lot in District 5?
Yep, I've been knocking on doors and talking to people and.
What are some of the issues you noticed?
Well, a lot of support for the president. Some doors get shut on me because they see the Trump. I'm a Trump supporter, and they go, sorry, not interested. But I mean, there's been a lot of polite people too. I mean, I work with Democrats. We all work with people from the other party, whether you're Democrat or Republican. You work with both sides, and we need to start having a dialogue about it. Yes, I don't like the policies. Yes, I can stand having a conversation with somebody who disagrees with me, and I can try to convince them. I want to try to convince them, because the only way you're going to be able to convince somebody is if you're willing to have a dialogue. To do otherwise is unacceptable. You're not going to get a solution.
How can you beat Josh Gottenheimer when he says he is a conservative Democrat?
Well, he's not, and the idea that he is.
He claims he is.
Yeah, I can claim a lot of things too. I'm a 6'4" giant who should be playing basketball. That doesn't mean it's true. I mean, he is somebody.
But people voted for him, so they trusted him to some extent.
They trusted him once. I don't think he's going to get the same level of trust. I think that a lot of people, as I've been looking at his returns, he isn't getting a lot of favorable stuff. There's a lot of criticism about him out there from people of his own party. So he's even losing his base at this point.
What's wrong with him or his policy?
Well, for the longest time, they don't like the fact that he was waffling on the impeachment, that he was saying he wasn't going to impeach. So his base of the hard left wasn't going to stick with him. But right now, honestly, since he voted for it, he's made his true colors shine.
But that's from a Washington, D.C. perspective. What about him from a congressional district perspective? What did he do wrong? What can you do right?
Well, he likes to come at stuff, and you see, I believe no matter who it is you're talking to, you have to hit them back with what they're saying. You have to be able to stand up to them and tell them what they are. He's lying. He's lying about a lot of stuff. First of all, he goes on. He talks about moocher states, and he claims that we have a lot of other moocher states, and he cites several red states. The fact of the matter is, the biggest moocher of them all is Virginia, if he wants to call them moocher states. I think, honestly, the reality is when you look at what he's claiming, he's misinterpreting it on purpose. He's saying our salt taxes are the reason why people are leaving the state. That's an out-and-out lie. It's state and local taxes.
That was my next question.
Yeah,
what's your opinion on salt?
Well, he's saying state and local taxes are he's right about that they are leaving because it's connected to salt. He's wrong about the salt deduction being the reason why people are leaving. He's running around saying salt deduction is the reason why, because the president's plan of getting rid of the salt deduction, the state and local tax deduction, is the reason why New Jerseyans are running away from the state. That's just not it. It's because the state and local taxes are so darn high. That's why people are picking up and going. I know this because this is what my families are telling me. When they leave, they say they can't afford to live here. It's not because they're not getting a tax break. It's because our state government goes back to what I was saying before, and goes back to wanting to give people free stuff. Our state and local taxes are too high. The reason why they're too high is because we have a governor who continues to go at this as if it's a free lunch for everybody. And raise taxes left and right. Fine. And he says comments like, hey, if you can't afford it, then maybe you shouldn't be here. Guess what? They listened. They took off. And the reality...
Left New Jersey.
They leave New Jersey. They can't stand it. People leave New Jersey because he and the legislature is pushing to have more higher taxes. And it doesn't matter if it's in the schools that they're raising taxes. They're raising taxes in the schools to meet some other unfunded mandate that's been passed down from the legislature, from the Department of Ed, and it just continues to build and build and build. And he's not going to change. And so for Josh to go along and say it's because of the president that people are leaving the state of New Jersey, I mean, my father had a word for that, but I'm not going to use it on TV. But it's got to do with the bovine manure. And to be honest with you, it's just ridiculous that he's going to sit there and try to lie to the people. I think people see through that. You know, New Jerseyans aren't dumb. We see through lies. And that's a lie. That's an up and straight up lie. It's not because of the president. It's because of his buddies that he's not pressuring. Listen, he's friends with Sweeney. He's friends with Murphy. He's friends with all these people. And he's patting them on the back, shaking their hand, acting as if there's no problem. What we need is a guy in the 5th District who's going to stand up to those guys and say, you're wrong.
He's been a former speechwriter for Clinton, right?
Yeah, he puts on a good presentation. I mean, you know, so does Brad Pitt, but he's a leftist. What does that mean?
But that's general elections. Let's talk about your primary. How does Jim stand out amongst the other 6 or 7 people?
I'm an ordinary guy. I mean, I'm as ordinary as you can get. I'm frontline with the families. I talk I have my students in my classroom every single day. I work with people, with their parents. I was in some of the things I've done in the past. I've worked with veterans. I've worked with, the food pantry. I've done what I can to help out with people. My background is not I'm not a banker. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not somebody who's done something like that. My background is social service. I worked for our local county ARC. I worked for a youth shelter. I worked as a child advocate for CASA. I've done everything you can. I've done a lot of things in the social service field, including being working now as a teacher for almost 20 years. I've seen the families in struggling to make for years now trying to survive. I've seen their suffering. My family's struggling to survive with what we're going through with our daughter. This is painful for me to see these families go through that, but I do think I can make a change with that.
The reason why I asked that question is in 2018, John McCain won with about over 53% voting percentage in the primary.
Yeah.
So do you see that as an advantage to him because he has prior experience?
I see. No, because he didn't win. He didn't win against Josh. He didn't bring the star power he needed to bring to fight Josh.
But he got his feet wet.
Yeah, I do that when I go to the pool. That doesn't. I mean, that's a bad joke. But the reality is,
electorally.
Yeah, but we don't need a guy who's a politician. We don't need someone who's done the politics. What we need is a fresh face. Trump was a fresh face. When you look at the numbers, he came at this as not an establishment candidate. We don't need an establishment candidate. We need somebody who's going to stand out and be different than Josh. Josh is the establishment guy. He's the Democratic establishment guy. He's hooked up with Bloomberg. He's hooked up with Schumer. He's hooked up, and his family's well connected with money with the Tusk Enterprises. He is well connected. He's got money. He's got connections. He's establishment, even if it's on the Democratic side. I'm not establishment. I am far from establishment. I am the guy who is the ordinary person. I'm the guy who comes at this as somebody who isn't well connected. I'm a school teacher. And so all the people I talk to on a daily basis are families and people in my community.
If you think about it, Bernie Sanders is not an establishment guy. Donald Trump, when he was running, he was not an establishment guy. So I think it's a non-establishment guy.
You asked me before, how can I do this? because the people are not looking for fake. They're not looking for the establishment guy. We don't want Jeb Bushes. Jeb Bushes will not work. We want people who are Donald Trumps, who are willing to stand up and fight. I'm that guy. And I think I can do it. I mean, I'm not trying to disparage the other candidates in the race. I'm simply saying I know what I am. I've learned I got to run my race. My race is who I am. They can be who they want to be. I'm running as James Baldini. And I know that I can stand and make a difference because my families in my district care about seeing a change. And I know they're not going to see it with an establishment guy.
Since you brought up Trump so many times, I'm going to ask this question. Trump is running in the same term as you are.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think the Trump factor would help you or would it go against you?
Oh yeah, I believe firmly in his American First ideas. I believe firmly in the way he's taken a fight to them, and I firmly believe in him. I do know that he's that thin line between us and what the Democrats want to do to us. They are statists. They want to control us. They want to be able to tell us how to live our lives. They want the Green New Deal. They want the New Way Forward. They want all these things to control how you and I live our lives. They're not interested in nothing but control, which goes back to they want to take away our guns. They want to take away have our lifestyle. Whether you're in a city or not, they want to take away the way you live your life. Put you in little boxes to ride on the way to work while they're driving in the limousines and the private jets.
If I were to ask you, what are top 3 core issues you're focusing in as a candidate?
Well, clearly, socialism, because of what they did to my daughter. I firmly believe that. I think our debt is $23 trillion. We have a national debt there. We also have $4 trillion on the states level. We need to deal with the $4 trillion that the states owe from their obligations to the pensions and to other matters.
Do you have a plan for that?
Well, to deal with the $23 trillion, certainly. We need to, one of the reasons why we have such a huge government and a huge bill right now is because no one's ever taken a serious look at the government. What I propose is having the entire government go through and we have the Congress, not the bureaucracy, the Congress up or down vote every department, everything that's not in the Constitution. If it doesn't explicitly say it in the Constitution document, then it should be voted up or down whether we should keep it or not. Because then it does 2 things. It puts the the people in Congress on record whether they support Planned Parenthood, whether they don't support Planned Parenthood, whether they support this agency or that agency, it puts them on the record on whether they support it, one, and it also will force them to say, you know what, this is something that we really don't need and we can get rid of. And that's going to decrease the budget. If you do that consecutively, every 2 years, you have to do 1/5 of the federal government. It has to be voted up or down. It's going to cause them to work. Big surprise, they're actually going to have to do their job because that's what they should be doing. They've been hiding behind this bureaucrat did this department did that. They're not taking responsibility for what they are, what we're paying for. You and I are paying for it. They're not. So we need to turn that into something, say, okay, you're taking a stand on it, yes or no. And if you don't take a stand on it, then you're a liar and you can get voted out.
So any final comments or message to our viewers?
I'm having a kickoff on February 18th at the Hampton Diner. It's going to be great food, great time. We're going to have a bunch of door prizes. I want people to come out and see the campaign, see me, come shake my hand, but talk to me. Tell me what your feelings are. Tell me what your thoughts are. The reality is I'm in this for you. I'm going to stand by the Trump, and he's been attacked so much that he needs people on his flank. I'm the guy to do it.
Want to mention your website?
Oh, that'd be a great idea. You're so smart. Thanks. Vote Big Jim is my website. I am a big guy, so it kind of fits. www.votebigjim. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Vote Big Jim.
Thank you for coming to our show.
My
Jim,
pleasure.
On behalf of our TV network, wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
That is all the time we have for this week. Until next week, take care. God bless America.